The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here. We are live at CompTIA's ChannelCon event, and I am with the one and only Tom Lawrence with Lawrence Systems. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I don't think we have a name collision problem like some people like that.
Right. Exactly. It's always great to be at these events because, it's one thing chatting online on social media or jumping on a Zoom call, but when you're in person like this, that networking is invaluable.
I agree. It's all I've really been doing. I not spent much time in the conference, like as far as talks go.
Right.
The talks are just an impetus to have a conversation sometimes. Like, hey, let's go talk about this, and someone did, and then you end up with these more in-depth conversations in the hallway. And I think that's what's really important. That's what I've been doing most of.
It is. And I mean, there's a large amount of MSPs here in very diverse levels, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I often talk about our members is those that are in the aspiring, the growing, and the mature stage. And the beauty is that just that collaboration of them working together, sharing those ideas, because, one might think that it's solely those that are aspiring and maybe growing that are learning from the mature. But I think those that are mature are also learning from the others because they have fresh ideas.
Yes. There's a challenge you can run into in the MSP space, or really any space. I'm always cautionary of like peer groups that they don't turn into groupthink groups. There's times when you want to talk about best practices, but sometimes it can lead to, I don't know how to describe it, like maybe an over-homogenation where new ideas don't really bubble up. Everyone gets homogenized to the same level all the time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what about this? Well, no, none of us use it, so it must be bad. All of us have decided that's not the path forward.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you? Let's make it. You got to still have some of those ideas, still have someone who brings ideas and be able to love for it. They have to be vetted. They have to be validated. I mean, they have to be supportable ideas. That's always my joke because people, see me as the open source guy, but I'm also the guy who preach like, no, it has to be supportable. I don't just slap open source and find a random GitHub project to solve a problem for a client. What does the long term look like on that? That's what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that's really jumping out at me is as I have conversations with MSPs is the whole, I guess, premise of being a managed service provider is proactive support, right? And I think at some point there's so much reactionary aspects that they lose sight of truly being proactive. I mean, I've always sold our managed services to clients is it's more of a crystal ball approach to managing IT versus the magic 8 ball.
Right.
And
you're very true. And you're not really a managed service provider if you're just a service provider reacting to everything. And I think forget about the manage. You really have to be predictive on your client's needs. Because you know far better than them. Do they need this technology? When will the technology become an aggravation or cumbersome to them because you haven't thought about simple things? And this is probably the most common base one of how are they going to replace it? Because you're come over there with a sales proposal. Hey, let's replace all these 5-year-old computers, or this is the obsolete operating system. They're like, oh, it would have been great to know a year ago.
Right.
Because now you're telling me right now you want me to approve a budget of this. And that's not what we had budgeted in forecast because they have their own widget making machines that have a replacement life cycle on them as well. And so you have to really be that proactive. Think to longer terms of letting them know, not today. This proposal can sit for a long time. I'll remind you about it, but in 2 years, 1 year, this is your run rate. This is what you're going to have to replace in your business and be reactive, not like, hey, hard drive's full. It ramps up to get, it's really full on day one. It's incremental. You'll watch it.
Yeah. And, that hardware rotation schedule is just so critical, and I've said it before, but it's, I view that as the money tree. And, many MSPs are so focused on wanting to go out and get, new customers. When in reality, you've got money sitting on the table with your existing client base. And if you build out that hardware rotation schedule, identify all the hardware, estimated date of replacement, the estimated cost replacement, and target that with them. And during a technology business review, have that open conversation, because most SMBs, they don't do any kind of budgeting.
Right. And you're trying to help them with that, which is, I see my boss, Jason Slagle, saying here, making faces about saying, having trouble with that. Because even though we're even us being more proactive, there is at some point the maturity level of the client that you run into, whether or not they are capable of budgeting, understanding they need to have a budget to replace it. But you just have to figure out and bring them along for the journey, because you understand the technology, and that's the critical part, is making sure that like they're aware of the technology more, how it fits into their business. It takes a little bit more deeper thought in there, but that's a really critical component.
Yeah. So let's talk about, what do you see in the next 5 years for MSPs?
I see, because more and more things are becoming cloud application, getting a grip on what is or isn't in there, being able to control, monitor, measure. And, I'll call out an incident. Well, Snowflake. How many times, did we go, well, these people are passing compliance? Well, kind of a carve out would probably be the fact that they didn't set their Snowflake instances up at these large corporate companies, 2FA. That seems to be the common thread between all breaches.
Sure. How
many of us as managed service providers know and have a strong list of the SaaS apps used by them?
Right.
We know it's on-prem. We know what QuickBooks is. We see it. It's installed. But we don't necessarily know, are they using best practices on all the different sites they use? And that's become just a critical component of it. Making sure you know it, making sure that the person who sits in whatever position didn't use their personal email address.
Right.
They're always signing it there, because as you unwind someone, eventually you get that call going, hey, we don't know how they ever got into the portal where we upload all of our bids.
Yeah.
We tried doing a password reset, but other emails we couldn't work.
Right.
And you're like, you're going to get involved.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, that's not my website. Well, that's not exactly what the customer's here.
No.
So I think there's going to be a massive amount of involvement of understanding those credentials. There's already a lot of companies popping up in that space. I call it kind of RMM for the browser. It's my general term for those. I don't know what that, but it's your SaaS management, understanding at the browser level what's being input into the browser, to understand what emails you're using, what sites you're going to, having an onboarding, offboarding list. And then you go on really being proactive. When there's an incident at one of these SaaS companies, letting our clients know they need to rotate their passwords. They may have had their documents breached.
Right.
They upload them to this bid portal. That bid portal, you see it in some data breach news. You're like, oh, I have a client that used that bid portal. They should probably know that they may have had sensitive information exposed, because they won't get a letter for a long time, and it'll probably be something that gets in a junk file.
Yeah.
So that's real proactiveness, though.
Yeah.
Being able to funnel that data to your clients, engage with them. It's helpful to them, and they also shows to I care. You're paying attention to what they do.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about them using a personal email address for something business related. I've seen it the opposite as well, where there was a CEO of a financial services organization that used a business email address for a site that I won't get into what the site was, but we found his username and password on the dark web. And what ultimately happened is, during the discussion, he said, I use that username password for everything, all of our line of business software. They're a financial services organization, right? Yeah. And if we hadn't done that scan, we would have had no idea, so that proactiveness, and he was like getting into, this is why I was on that site. I'm like, that doesn't matter. What matters to me is that you used a business user email address and your same password for your line of business. There were like 50 line of business applications that you had the same password for.
Yeah. And password management is one of those touchy subjects a lot of MSPs are into. Are you reselling a password manager? I don't care which one, but there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of them have ways of doing compared to the, have I been homeless automatically?
Yeah.
A lot of popular ones can do that. They can just hit a button, run reports. And if you're doing things like that, you're like, oh, you don't have to do it all the time. Just once in a while. Because what you'll end up doing with that level of creation is teaching them, I can't use the same password everywhere. Matter of fact, some of the password managers of the ones I've used, they will tell you when you ever use the password. Right. Warn you, like, you've used this on other sites.
Yeah.
And once you are at that level, this goes back to that kind of RMM for the browser, as I refer to it.
Yep.
You locked on the browser. You can't use the built-in password management for the browser. You lock down plugins they can use. You've got them only using a proper password manager.
Right.
Now you've got this much higher bar for security.
Yeah.
You, like you said, not from necessary scan, which you find something, but you can do it actively by looking at the passwords. Well, the hashes of the passwords, how that works for anyone that's looking for the technical details.
Right.
No, these companies don't actually know your password. They can look at the hashes, compare the hashes to no breaches, and go, hey, there's the hash collision here, and that's going to mean that the password is the same. It's involved in this. It also saves some of the embarrassment.
Right. Yeah. It was a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
So the other thing too, as far as you mentioned, just going to the whole shadow IT, because, end users, they want to do the best that they possibly can in their job. And, it's not like they're being, deceitful or, trying to cause problems, but they're just in the course doing their job. They're like, oh yeah, I heard about this tool. And they go out and get something, right? And, who knows what it is?
Well, it's always that. I love those jokes about when people have little fights about operating systems, things like that. And why aren't other people using Linux? I'm like, people don't even think about operating systems.
Right.
Like the average outside, which the further you get outside of our space, the further people even understand what the operating system is.
Yeah.
We as technology people are functioning technology. Many of the people that we service at these companies, gave an example the other day, I talked about the dairy farm. It's just a tool for the people at dairy farm. These people may or may not even have any computers at home. Maybe they have a cell phone. So it's just one of those things where they are going to go be in there, and it's just a tool to get something done. And if the tool's not working efficiently for what their job is, they're not dumb. They may not like technology, but they're not dumb. They will find a creative way around it. You have to make sure you put the proper safeguards, because if not, there's going to be some switch dangling off the port because there wasn't a place to plug something in because they had two devices that need a network connection.
Right.
They're not trying to destroy your network.
Right.
That was a happy accident.
Yeah.
And so you really need to, walk through. This is where you get into your higher levels of consulting, but this is actually mature as MSP. You think about their business process, think about how to make it efficient. And if you don't think about how to make it efficient, they're going to have one of those employees who will come up with a more efficient way to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because again, they want to excel at what they're doing.
They want to do their job well. This is just one piece of their job.
Right.
The technology, this is like a component of it. The technology is not their job. That's our job.
Right.
We had some engineering companies really interesting because they develop x-rays that look into and just determine metallurgy. A guy has a particle physics degree and a doctorate and another one. He's a brilliant guy. He has a lot of opinions how computers work.
Yeah.
It's easier to cooperate with them. Well, it's not necessarily easy to cooperate, but eventually it is. Because they always want to load everything to help make their job easier, but we have to vet the things that go on there because he wants it.
Right.
He's smart enough, and he'll tap out of this little degree to let I should have admin privileges. But we're like, no.
Right.
I agree. You know more about particle physics than me.
Right.
There's a lot of scary things in this room that I feel like at me, but but we're still not going to give you admin privileges. Just let you know, what can we do? What is the challenge you face? How can we solve it in a safe way that we can? As simple as that.
So that's funny. We had a client last year, new CEO came on board, new CFO, and because things were locked down the way they should be, they were too happy about that.
Yeah.
They're in. When they came to us and they're like, why is it this way? And I'm like, this is why, go through that whole, traditional explanation. And they're like, well, we know what's good and what's bad, right? And, it's like, oh, okay. So those are things that you just have to be brutally honest with them, that there are reasons why it needs to be this way.
Yeah. And just if you're engaged also, what can't you do that I can help you with? What is the thing you need? Is it this little tool you need to load in? There was a couple little pieces first. We looked at it. So it's kind of weird software, but I mean, who else runs CNC machines that do this? I'm like, okay, so we'll let them load the weird CNC software.
Right.
We will load it.
Yeah.
We will remote in, add it, pitch it, approve this.
Yeah.
If any stuff, just let us know. We'll add it to the list. It's not a big deal. But then want to just do it all themselves. And I'm like, yeah, it gets a little risky.
Yeah.
So there can be problems. But that's where we should be as technologists, be proactive.
Right.
And asking that question is a lot of times your level one techs are like, no, not approved. You're like, there's a reason they're asking.
Right.
Take the time. Have your account manager talk to them. Really engage them. Like, what do you try to do? How can we help you?
Yeah.
Starting a conversation. You're like, no, you can't have ads. What are you trying to do? How can we help you accomplish it? Changes the day.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, cool, I'm engaging with them. They seem to care. They want me to be able to do my job. They're not trying to just stonewall me.
Yeah.
And that's being a little more proactive that way. And it's being a lot more engaged with your client. It's hard. By the way, I called out at any moment for saying, Tom, did you do all these things 100% perfect as your company? Absolutely not. And we had conversations with account managers for not doing enough of this. Absolutely. Yeah. We're not a perfect MSP.
Right.
It's always a work in progress. The most important thing is knowing what needs to be done and trying to get 1% better every day at doing that.
Yeah. And have real life examples of, of ramifications of a small or mid-sized company.
Yeah.
There's too many stories that are all large enterprise. And I don't think that really hits home to them because they're like, we're a small company. That's a big company, completely different. Even though you would think that a large company was going to have so much more resources, they need to understand something that hits home to them.
Yeah, I've posted this many, many times. I've said it in many of my talks I've given, where you're not too big to get too big to make the difference. You're too small to make the difference.
Right.
And it's just one of those challenges people don't realize that they are all the time. There's these little, one of them's a dental office that was down the street. We were not their MSP, but they called us when they got hit. And we went and talked to them. No insurance, no way to recover, and they closed. There was not an option. The fines and everything else. They were older couple running it still, and the guy's like, "I'm just retired." But you have no idea. There's not a blip in the local chamber paper. The local news did not cover local dentalist office after 40 years of operation closes because of a ransomware incident. That is not in the news. It's not newsworthy. It's like there's some large egregious thing happening with some large healthcare provider that is in the news because it has such a dramatic effect. With small places, it's so ancillary. And
that's a great story because I think too, we have a lot of stats that are floating on the channel about, the average incident cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And, those SMBs are like, we don't even do anywhere near that in revenue. Right. So they just brush that off. They don't take that seriously. And so to say, here's a local dentist that got hit and ultimately did close shop. It's real.
Yeah. The challenge is you're going to see in the news, like the big name ransomware gangs. That's cool news to talk about. Don't underestimate some of these highly skilled, highly motivated people out there that are basically time rich, cash poor. Right. Internet connection. Right. They have a lot of determination. They have immunity due to geography. They've learned from being in these forums, and you're where they're practicing. It's like the small gang members proving it to cut it, so they eventually hang out with the big kids. They're like, I got this little 4-person dentist office. Like, but I mean, if they got $1,000 out of it, or anything they could do, or anything to get out of that, it has some value. Some street cred for them, if you will, some hacker cred, so they can join you. They may put a couple dollars in their pockets if they make the ransom reasonable. And some people do pay small amounts of ransom, but that can be a big amount of money to where they are. So that ecosystem exists. It's moving. It's going all the time. It's so far under the radar unless you're in the MSP space. And it's scattered around. It's not like I can't name one company living in the suburbs. A lot of companies. I don't know why any of the other ones, but there's always places. I don't know why. But I know one of them was related to ransom. Only because they called us. If they wouldn't have called me, I wouldn't know. I'm not my dentist.
Well, I mean, too, like in their inner circle, the bad actors. I mean, like we as MSPs, like if you scored a huge deal, we're gonna high five each other. Great job. They're high fiving each other. Like, I just took down a business.
It's really weird when you dive into the hacker communities. What makes them so good is, think about it. You got this encouraged group to do it. They have examples. They got people on there. These popular people. Like, there's not a lot of opportunity here. But those people who are stealing from Americans, if you will, is the MC they have. That cool guy over there, he's got a bunch of money from Americans. They're insurance things for it. When you do interviews with them, you get these recorded features. Some really good interviews with hackers. There's been a lot of controversy because they blamed recorded feature for glamorizing it. But it is weird how these people are glamorized. So it's they're the cool kids.
So as we wrap up, what's one tip that you would give to an MSP? I mean, there's so many, right?
I know.
We're like one.
What does Jason have one takeaway he wants to shout out?
Always be here.
There's always money in the bank. Yes.
There's always money in a banana stand.
In the banana. Yeah.
Yeah, no, kind of like we said, do some account management, actually engage with the client, figure out what they need, think about how the technology goes a long way.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for your time. It's always great to have discussions with you. And for everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great day. Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.